Hello, everyone, and welcome to Make 101, which is the introduction course to the Makerspace. My name is Daniel Brateris, and I'm the Executive Director for Experiential Learning at NJIT. I'm also one of the creators of the Makerspace here, and I'm very happy to lead you guys through this introductory course so that you can operate safely and efficiently within the Makerspace. A few things before we get started. This video has embedded quizzes within it, so you will be able to answer questions as we go along. You must score a 90% or higher to pass the quiz. For many of the questions, you'll be allowed to re-answer them if you get them wrong after you review the material. So make sure you're paying attention and you watch the whole video and answer all the questions. So today we're going to go over many things. First, we're going to talk about what a makerspace is and what makes people makers. We're going to cover what the Makerspace can do for you and what the staff can do for you. We'll talk about the things you're allowed to make and not allowed to make in the space, and we'll go over how you behave in the space and how you act safely, what to do in an emergency, and how to use equipment, how to get approval to use equipment, and how to get training and information on our equipment. We'll talk about our hand tools and access control systems, and we'll look at our storage lockers, and then how you purchase material and supplies for things that are not already provided. So let's jump right in. What is a makerspace? Now, makerspaces are not new things, and certainly shop spaces within universities and in public are not new things, but makerspaces differ a lot from the traditional shop spaces that are found in these universities and public spaces because they're very community oriented. So we do have a wonderful shop here, but we also want to build a community of making where users help each other, brainstorm with each other, and work off of each other's projects and learn from each other. So you'll notice that our makerspace has a lot of social components and social spaces as well. So we want you to spend time here in the makerspace. We want you to feel at home here, and we want you to interact with the staff and the other users in a way that is joyful and excited and willing to learn and willing to participate in new things and share your knowledge with other people. So the next thing is, why would you want to use the makerspace here? And in general, we can say that you may want to use this space to learn new skills. You're here at the university for a number of years and you're participating in coursework, but there are lots of things that you can learn in spaces like the Makerspace and around campus that can help you become a better designer, a better engineer, a more valuable employee, or a better presenter or communicator. And participating in those things can help you be more valuable, more marketable, and become overall a better person. So we encourage you to come to the Makerspace to learn and to become better. We also want you to develop new hobbies, new friendships, and new colleagues. This is a friendly place that we want you to come and be a part of. So we have staff at the Makerspace, and what do they do? So they are here to help you. They are here to help the users. They can help you do many things like learn to use new equipment, think through designs and options for things that you're building. They can help you choose tools for a task or help you learn how to achieve a task in a new or different way. And they can certainly point you in the right direction when you have a question. But the one thing they are not here to do is to do things for you. They are here to help you learn to do things. They are here so that when you leave the makerspace, you have new skills. So please make use of the staff, talk to us, talk to them, and ask them for help. But please don't ask them to do things for you. Ask so that you can learn to do new things. There are many things you're allowed to work on in the Makerspace. First and foremost, you can work on coursework for your NJIT classes. You can work on projects for NJIT teams and group projects. These are like competitive teams that we have that are part of the College of Engineering or College of Architecture or Computer Science. We have many competitive teams that need to build things, and they can work on these projects here. You can work on research projects, whether that is with a professor or on your own research. You can participate in making personal items here, things for your own hobbies and gifts. You can make entrepreneurial things, that is items and systems that you're looking to turn into a business or a company. But we don't want you to make weapons or anything drug related. We'd like you to avoid making political items. We are a state institution, so we try to stay politically neutral. And we really don't want you to make batches of commercial products. If you're going to make a few of something that is going to help launch your business or something of that nature, you absolutely can. But if you want to build hundreds of something, you should speak to the staff before you do that. We can certainly make exceptions to some of these restrictions, but you have to speak with the staff to do that. So you may be wondering, where do you start? If you're not currently a great maker, where do you begin? If you don't have a current design or something you want to work on, there are many websites, and here are a few of them, like Instructables, Thingiverse, GrabCAD. On these places, you can download designs of existing projects, and then you can make them. So there is value in learning to design new things, but there is also value in taking something that's existing and learning how to build it. And these are the websites that you can go to. There are many more, but you can go to these websites and get existing designs and then learn how to make them here in the Makerspace. So I'd like you to take a look at this quote here. Even if it's not perfect, it's worth making. This is a good mindset to stay in around here and in many things in life. Sometimes it is not worth waiting till you have perfected everything to attempt to build something. Usually, when you build something, you learn a lot in the process of building it. You learn sometimes what is feasible, sometimes what is not feasible, and oftentimes, if you wait until you have perfection or close to it, you may actually end up designing or building something that doesn't actually solve your goal. So when we prototype, when we build, oftentimes it is a good idea to try things initially and learn about them before you develop or devote tons of resources into perfecting something. This is a model that's sometimes known as fail fast and fail cheap. If you wait till perfection, you may not get where you're looking for. So build soon, build early, test things, and then iterate towards a great design. Here are a couple examples of things that have been built in the space, and I can tell you that with all of these designs, there were failed designs before these designs succeeded. If we waited till the very end, we wouldn't have gotten to these designs very quickly. So try things early, try out your ideas and your designs, and learn that failure is part of the design process, and that's what helps you build efficient and perfected designs. All right, glad that everyone is still with us. The next part of our training is going to focus on behavior, guidelines, and safety. So when you're in the space, you can find a lot of information about how we do things in our equipment on our website, which is ngitmakerspace.com. All of our students, faculty, and staff here at the university are eligible to use the space after they take this training and sign a safety waiver. And one major thing to note, that safety is paramount around here, and your access to this space may be revoked if you do not behave appropriately. The first thing we'll talk about is your attire. So this is a shop facility, so no open-toed footwear. And when you're operating machinery, you should have no loose-fitting clothing or jewelry or anything that could get caught in the power tools or the equipment while you're operating it. If you have long hair or a long beard, you must secure it prior to operating the machinery. And you should be wearing the appropriate personal protective equipment for the activity that you are doing. That could be safety glasses, could be latex gloves, could be nitrile gloves, could be hearing protection, could be an apron or some kind of dust mask. If you're unsure what's appropriate for the activity that you're doing, ask the staff. A few things about basic safety. If you're unsure, ask. We would rather teach you or teach you multiple times than you get hurt. So always ask for help if you're unsure. You should avoid working alone on certain kinds of equipment. You're going to follow the hazard class guidelines, which we will discuss later. Keep your work area clean and organized. Only use equipment that you've been trained on, and many of the pieces of equipment have safety features or access control devices. We do not want you to tamper with these. And when you're done working, clean up your area. That could mean sweeping if you've created dust, wiping down surfaces, vacuuming, scrubbing, anything that you need to do to return your work area to the way it was before you started. Now, when you're building things, we have a motto: slow is smooth, smooth is fast. What this means is that when you're rushing from step to step, you often make mistakes or endanger yourself. So if you are slow and calculated in the way that you operate, you will actually get things done much faster. So this means do not rush. Calculate your decisions, work in a smooth and calculated way, and you will finish your project quickly and safely. So as a shop facility, we have a lot of chemicals and materials and hazards around the space. So there are a few things that when you operate in these kind of facilities that you should know. The first is that any user of the space has the right to know all the hazards that are present. So if you're in the space, you have the right to know all the chemicals, all the things that are around, and then how the procedures around those chemicals and hazards are taken. So you can know all of our standard operating procedures, all of our action plans. You just need to ask for them. Also, this is a shop facility. Even though there are social spaces, there is no eating or drinking in the shop. We have designated the ground floor of the Makerspace near the front desk as a social space. So there is no equipment down on that floor, so you may eat and drink in that area. Now, every chemical and material that's present in the space needs to have a safety data sheet located in the safety data sheet binder, which is located around the space. We have several of these binders, and they're located near the hazards that are related to them. The purpose behind this is if you get injured with one of these chemicals or materials, you can look in the binder, or the police or an emergency medical technician can look in the binder and know what to do. So this is the reason why if you bring personal material into this space and it's not material that we already have. So for example, if you bring acrylic into the space, we already have acrylic. So we already have a safety data sheet located in the safety data sheet binder near where we store and use the acrylic. But for example, if you bring some other kind of plastic in that you intend to cut, you must bring a safety data sheet with it, and we must file that sheet in the SDS binder. You must also wear the appropriate protective equipment when you're using materials and supplies and equipment. One thing we do not want you to do is return damaged personal protective equipment to the supply stations. So for example, if something gets damaged, either throw it out or show it to a staff member to see if it can be repaired. We also do not want you to remove any personal protective equipment from the space. Please try to take your safety glasses off, gloves and things of that nature, and return them to their storage stations before you leave. Also, if you generate some chemicals or have waste that is generated in the space and you need to dispose of it, please let the staff know. If it's anything special, we have special ways to dispose of that involve our Environmental Health and Safety Department. All right, welcome back from the quiz. Now we're going to start discussing injuries and first aid. So if you have a small injury, this is something that you can handle yourself, like a small cut, something that likely does not need stitches. There are several first aid kits around the space. You can try to handle that injury yourself. Please alert the staff when you're done, and then make sure that the staff or yourself clean and sanitize the area where you got injured if there was any blood or anything left in that area. Even if it is a small injury, if you're not comfortable handling that injury, you can ask the staff for help, or we can call the campus EMS staff and they can come help. Or if it is something that you're just not sure about, you think it might be serious, there is never a harm in calling 911. Now, in the case of a serious injury, this is something where yourself or another person has major bleeding, a broken bone, dismemberment, any kind of head injury, or is unconscious, or any other serious injury. The first thing you should do is call 911. There is never a problem with calling 911, even if it's a minor injury. It is much better to be on the safe side than forgetting to call 911. You should always do 911 in any case where you're even the slightest bit unsure. It is always appropriate to call 911 in case of an injury. When you do that, you should immediately let the 911 operator know that you are on the NJIT campus and that you're in the Makerspace. Once you've done that, you should then alert the Makerspace staff. Now, in some cases, if appropriate or if you are comfortable, you could consider helping the person who is injured with a bleeding control kit. Now, bleeding control is only for very, very serious injuries, but we do have equipment located in the Makerspace that could cause the kind of injuries that need bleeding control. Now, this is something that should be done by someone with experience, but in many cases, if someone happens to get a serious injury, your intervention could save their life. This is if someone, for example, gets a major laceration or loses part of their arm. They may need a tourniquet or something like that. The staff are trained to help with these things, but we cannot control every outcome. Now, these injuries are very rare, and we do everything possible to prevent every injury like this, and we have never had one in the Makerspace. But around the space are these Stop the Bleed bleeding control kits. These are here for absolute emergencies. And in these kits are things like chest seals if someone gets a puncture wound, gloves, tourniquets, bandages, and instructions. If you are comfortable and someone gets a major injury, you can assist. What you would do is call 911 immediately, and if there's someone else around, you can delegate them to manage the 911 call, and then you can do your best to assist with the bleeding control. Once again, this is not a requirement, but in certain cases, your assistance could potentially save someone's life. Once again, we hope to never have an injury like this occur, and if proper safety precautions are followed and everyone behaves in a good way, we will likely never have an injury or incident like this, but in the unlikely case that it happens, this is how we are prepared for it. Okay, welcome back from the latest questions. Now we are here to discuss fire response and evacuation. So fires are real problems in spaces, especially when we have equipment that can create heat, that runs on electricity, and that sometimes uses flammable gases. So in the event of a fire, this is any fire that is not a small fire located within a piece of equipment. So for example, if you look at the bottom left-hand side of the screen, you'll see a laser cutter, and you can see a small fire where the laser cutter is cutting the piece of equipment. In these kinds of equipment, fires are sometimes normal. But if you see a fire anywhere else in the space, you should pull the fire alarm and call 911. Examples of this are the building is on fire, the walls are on fire, or an entire piece of equipment is on fire. Once you call 911, you should tell the operator you are on the NJIT campus. They should already know about the fire from you pulling the fire alarm. You should alert the Makerspace staff, and you should exit the building. You should stay in the vicinity of the building. It is possible that you have some knowledge that may be needed for the firefighters or for the emergency personnel. So you should not leave the building and go home. You should stay around until the emergency response clears everyone to leave. In the event of a small fire, it may be best for you to try to extinguish the fire. So there are fire extinguishers around the Makerspace. If you see a small fire, something, the size of a basketball or a little bit larger, using a fire extinguisher could be a very, very good option. So just to review, this is how we use a fire extinguisher. First, you look at the dial on the fire extinguisher and make sure the nozzle is in the green position, saying that the fire extinguisher has the proper pressure. Then you pick the fire extinguisher up, you pull the pin out, you aim the nozzle at the base of the fire, you slowly squeeze the lever, and then you sweep the fire extinguisher back and forth in a left to right manner. In the event that you need to exit the Makerspace for an evacuation, here are the evacuation routes. You can exit through the front doors in either phase of the Makerspace, that is the new building with the main entrance, or the larger, more industrial space. You can exit through the loading dock, which is through the roll-up doors, or through the single swing door at the rear of the larger shop, and you can exit through doors next to the loading dock. You can check these routes out anytime, and there are fire evacuation route signage placed throughout the Makerspace. Hello, and welcome back from the latest quiz questions. We are now going to discuss the equipment that is available in the Makerspace, how you find out about it, and how you determine how you are able to access it and get training on it and learn more about the equipment. So here is a brief list of the kind of equipment we have. You can always find a complete list on our website, njitmakerspace.com/equipment. So we have millions of dollars worth of equipment in the Makerspace, and we have developed a classification system that explains to the users how the equipment can be accessed and how you can use it and get trained on it. So if you visit the website, you will see these cards for each piece of equipment. And at the bottom of the card are 3 listings, each with a colored dot next to them. The first listing is the status of the machine. The second is the hazard class, and the third is the access class. So let's first take a look at machine status. So there are 3 categories in machine status: operational, service advisory, and temporarily unavailable. I would check this website if you are coming to the Makerspace to use a particular piece of equipment. And if you are coming from a far distance away, like for example, you live off campus and you're going to drive an hour to campus to use a particular piece of equipment, I would also call, because sometimes the staff cannot update these status indicators immediately. Now let's move on to access class. So these access classes are divided into standard access, assisted use, and staff use only. So this describes how you are able to access the piece of equipment. So for example, we're going to discuss hazard class next. So if a machine is listed as standard access, that means you look at the hazard class of that equipment to determine how you access it. If the machine is listed as assisted use, that means a staff member must help you or watch you while you are using the equipment. And if a piece of equipment is listed as staff use only, that means regardless of how dangerous it is, only staff are allowed to operate that piece of equipment. The final classification of equipment is the hazard class. This essentially describes the potential for injury that you are exposed to when you operate the piece of equipment. We'll look at each one individually, but for example, hazard class 1 is low risk of injury or only small injuries, all the way up through hazard class 4, which this equipment essentially carries the potential for death or dismemberment. Hazard class 1 are things like small drills, 3D printers. These are equipment that have hazards which are minor injuries. So typically these injuries can be resolved with a small first aid kit or an ice pack. So if a piece of equipment is hazard class 1, then basically you have to have been trained on the equipment and the Makerspace must be open. Other than that, you can use the equipment however you'd like, whenever you'd like, and you do not need to ask someone each time you want to use the piece of equipment. So for example, a drill or a screwdriver, you can go and use that equipment as long as the space is open and you do not need to ask to use it. When we get to hazard class 2, the equipment goes up in danger a little bit more, and basically you must have been trained to use this equipment to operate it. This is very similar to hazard class 1, except these pieces of equipment carry slightly more risk and slightly more dangerous injuries that can occur. So in general, these are small injuries, but they could potentially require medical assistance if you were to be injured by this piece of equipment. When we get to hazard class 3, this equipment carries the risk for serious lacerations, minor amputations, and the kind of injuries that require medical attention. So in order to use this equipment, you must pass the proper training. If you use this equipment improperly, we could ban you from the Makerspace. And when you are operating this equipment, you must get approval every time you want to use the piece of equipment. So this means, for example, something like a high-powered drill press. Even though that it's a very simple piece of equipment to operate, you must tell someone you're using it, or there must be a supervisor near that piece of equipment so that if you were to be injured, someone would definitely be aware of your injury. You don't operate these pieces of equipment in isolation. So essentially, you must tell someone, or there must be a supervisor present watching you while you're using this equipment. Hazard class 4, these are pieces of equipment that come with life-threatening injuries. So the access requirements are the same, but someone must supervise you on a per use, per person basis if you're using this equipment. All right, welcome back. Now we're going to discuss hand tool use and access. So here is some basic guidelines for hand tool safety. It might seem self-explanatory, but use the right tool for the job. You do not want to force a tool to do something it's not designed to do, and you should ask us if you're unsure. If you have a task to accomplish, you're not sure what tool to use, ask us and we will show you the right tool to use. You should always examine the tool's condition before using it, making sure it's in good repair, it's lubricated properly, and it's functioning properly. If a tool is broken or not working properly, do not return that tool. Tell the staff so that that tool can be fixed before it goes back into storage so another user doesn't accidentally use a broken tool. Use the appropriate personal protective equipment. And a big one here is if things feel wrong or dangerous, stop. There are lots of tools where they may feel strange when being used if you're not used to it. But if it doesn't feel right to you, stop and someone will help you do it correctly. Lastly, when you're done with your tools, return them to storage. Most of our hand tools are stored in these automated control systems. They're primarily made by a company called Snap-on, and these are computer-controlled systems that monitor what tools you take and that you've put them back. Each tool has a slot, and in some cases, there are many of the same tools in the toolboxes. So make sure you put your tools back in the slots that you took them out of. The computer screen on the device will show you where your slot is. On these units, you can only open one drawer at a time. You should also lock the box when you're done with it, and you should return all your tools to the box before you leave the space. Let's watch this short video on how to take a tool out of the box. So you're going to walk up to the toolbox and scan your ID on the card scanner. Then you're going to lift your fingers up underneath the drawer and slide them to the left. Then pull the drawer out. Take a tool out and push the drawer all the way back in. Press the top right of the screen to lock the box. Okay, now let's watch a short video on how to return a tool to the chest. You'll repeat the same process, scan your card. The screen will show you which drawers you have tools out of. Open the drawers. Place the tool back in your slot, which will be shown on the screen as well. Confirm that your tools have been returned and press the top right to log out. Next, we're going to speak about general supplies, fasteners, and hardware storage within the space. Most of our supplies, fasteners, and consumables are in cabinets around the space. If they're in an unlocked cabinet, typically these items are freely available for your use. A big item here is do not abuse this. If you need one screw, please try to take one screw, not a handful. We are able to offer these supplies at no cost because users have historically been responsible, but that could change. So please take only what you need and please use it for projects you're working on in the Makerspace. If you need something specific for your project that we do not have stocked, you can ask the staff. In some cases, we may be able to buy these items at no charge to you, or in some cases, we may be able to procure something through you through one of our vendors, and we may charge you for the items. A big thing that is important to keeping these spaces functional is that things are organized. So if you take more items than you need, we'd like you to put them back, but please be careful and only put them back if you are sure they are undamaged and you can correctly place them in the correct location. If you're not sure, ask a staff member and they will help you. Here is a short video showing some of our fastener storage. We also have storage lockers in the Makerspace. They are electronic lockers and we have a limited number of them. They are for rental, but they are free to rent. So we offer a maximum of 1 locker per user. We can also assign several users to a single locker for group projects, but you have to speak with the staff to do this. We highly encourage you to release your locker from rent when you're done with it so that other users can rent it. We don't currently have a lot of lockers and we'd like to improve upon this, but please only use your locker if you are actively using it. And if you're not actively using it, please take your items home and release the locker so other users can use it. We will monitor how frequently users access their lockers, and if you don't access them very frequently, we may take your items out and call you to pick them up. Here is a short video showing how to rent a locker. You walk up to the locker and scan your ID card after touching the screen. Select Rent a Locker. Select the size of the locker you want and the locker door will open. You can then go put your items in the locker and close the door. Once you've done this, you can go back to the screen and tap Sign Out. Here is how you access your locker once you have rented one. You'll walk up to the machine and touch the screen. Scan your ID card and then choose Open My Locker. The screen will ask you if you want to end your rental now or later. If you want to have your locker available another time, choose End Rental Later. If you are done with your locker, choose End Rental Now. Then click Sign Out. Finally, let's look at general tool usage and guidelines within the space. Anytime you're using hand or power tools, you should wear the appropriate protective equipment and always be aware of your surroundings. You should also make sure that users near you are also protected. So for example, if you are drilling into something and you are wearing safety goggles, the person sitting next to you may need to wear them as well, so you should be conscious of this. Also, make sure users near you are out of the danger zone. For example, if you are using a sharp knife, no one should be sitting within the range that you can reach to in case you happen to slip. If you are using a tool and cutting something or drilling something, you should always secure the parts to a work surface with a clamp or a vise. You should not carry any tools by the cord. You should keep the electrical cords and cutting surfaces of any tool away from heat, oil, and other sharp edges. And anytime you service a tool, change accessories, or clean a tool, disconnect it from power or remove the battery. Remember, friction and movement will equal heat. So anytime you're using a power tool or a hand tool that moves, you could potentially generate a lot of heat. You should always understand the movement of the tool before you use it. That is, you should watch a video, have someone show you, or understand what is going to happen when you use the tool or turn the tool on. You should make sure that there is enough space around you for the tool to complete its motion completely, and also enough space around you in case something goes wrong, you will not injure someone else or yourself. For power tools, you should also be aware that there's a chance the power tool could be locked in the on position when you plug it in or insert the battery. So make sure you are aware of this and are planning for it as you plug it in or insert the battery. The Makerspace offers several additional trainings on pieces of equipment that are high use within the space, and we are constantly developing additional trainings. Now that we have completed Make 101, you should consider these additional training sessions. For example, consider taking Make 102, which is an introduction to laser cutting, Make 103, which is an introduction to 3D printing, or Make 203, which is an introduction to SLA 3D printing. There is one more thing for you to do to complete your access to the Makerspace, and that is to fill out and complete the Makerspace member liability release. Congratulations! Once you have completed the release and submitted the grades on this quiz, you should now have access to the Makerspace during operating hours. To get access, you'll need to bring your NGIT ID card with you, and you can now use our hand tools, handheld power tools, storage lockers, soldering stations, breakout rooms, and we hope to see you around the space, and we hope you'll sign up for more trainings and enjoy making at the NGIT Makerspace. Enjoy and happy making.